Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Gaming in the Wild, a video games podcast about games from the artistic, creative side of the tracks, from indie to AAA. My name's John, I'm your host. This is a cut-down version of a full-length podcast that I put out on Spotify and Apple and all of those kind of places. It's a trimmed-down version just for YouTube. I hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please give it a like and subscribe. And you're welcome to join the show's Patreon at patreon.com/gaminginthewild. To join the Discord, chat with me, and get bonus episodes. With that said, I hope you enjoy this review of the wonderful Ultros. So I've been really looking forward to talking about Ultros. I love this game. I raced through it. I was feeling so good playing this game. You know when you find a game that you click with, that you become obsessed by, that you think about when you wake up in the morning. When you're working, you're looking forward to playing it after dinner. The kind of game where you sink in and play 4-hour sessions and then stop just because you're too tired and then can't wait to pick up again. Ultros was one of those for me, so I've been really looking forward to talking about this one. It's close to the record that I have, the amount of notes. I've got 4,000 words of notes here, so this is an essay-length review, so buckle up, and I hope you're up for it. I will say there's going to be a spoiler warning about halfway through, but I tried to cut the review into two, so that the front half gives people who are thinking of playing the game enough of an idea of what it is, and whether they would like to buy it. And the back half is a discussion about spoilers, which I've basically drawn after the first boss, or after the end of the demo. So that's roughly how this review is structured. But the game is out now on PlayStation and Steam, PlayStation console exclusive. I played it on the ROG Ally, where it ran flawlessly, and I did not have a single bug throughout my playthrough. It was a clean game. It is published by Kepler Interactive, who are having a bit of a hot streak as they have Pacific Drive coming up as well. It was Kepler who sent me a review code, so thanks for that. It's developed by Hadok, which seems to be a kind of a Swedish supergroup. The developer is named Hugo Bille, I think I'm saying that right, who worked on Thea, a game that I've reviewed in the past on this show. The art is by an artist called El Cuervo, who did some wonderful, colourful paintings that just sear the memory, really. And it has a very, very impressive score, a symphonic score by Rat Vader, and I'll be peppering tracks from that throughout this review for you to enjoy. I hope to talk to Hugo on the show soon, by the way. I'm chatting with Hugo right now, so if all goes well, there will be an interview about this game coming up soon after this review. The game has a Metacritic 82 at the time of recording, which is respectable, obviously, but a little low in my opinion. Games Radar gave it a 9 out of 10 and said it's a deceptively deep and mechanical metroidvania with eye-watering psychedelic vibes. It's not easy to do something fresh and unique in video games, but I've never played a game like Ultros, and for that alone, it is worth recommending. Good review from Games Radar there, good bold review. Digital Radar said Ultros is a bold and beautiful artistic vision, but a convoluted metroidvania. And I think I would agree that it is actually convoluted, but I think I would reframe the convolution as layers of complication and welcome complexity in this case. And I will be getting into why I think so later in the review. How Long to Beat has this one at 8.5 hours for the main quest, which I find startling given my playtime. Main and sides come in at 14. This is a low sample size, but people say you can do that in 14 hours. My playthrough currently sits at double that. I played for 28 hours. That included a lot of side stuff, that included a lot of secrets, that included some intentional backtracking, breaking open walls, using my abilities to find new areas for collectibles, experimenting with abilities and doing optional puzzles. So I really did get my money's worth out of this one. The developers described this one by saying, Ultros is a psychedelic metroidvania where you wake up stranded on the sarcophagus, a cosmic uterus holding an ancient demonic being. Trapped in the loop of a black hole, you will have to explore the sarcophagus and meet its inhabitants to understand the part you play. I have to say about this one, Ultros is an instant classic that revitalises the metroidvania genre. The prismic visuals and symphonic score are a sensual treat, and the game's ingenious ecosystem slowly blooms into a map-spanning meta-puzzle that demands patience, observation, curiosity, and creativity. So I'm obviously very high on this one. I mean, almost literally. I was really buzzing while I was playing this game. Something about the combination of the bright colours, the music, the theming, the ecological theming of the game, and the high sci-fi setting of it all just really set my brain alight. I think this is easily the best game that I've played in 2024 so far. So let's get into it and start with an overview of this game. It is a Metroidvania. That's gated exploration. You are exploring, you're engaging in combat, you're unlocking new areas, new skills, and slowly unwrapping a story. The game is set on a living space station called the Sarcophagus, the nature of which is mysterious to us at the start, and perhaps even at the end, to be honest. Our silent protagonist wakes up in a field of flowers, and the art style is really the first thing that's going to catch your eye in this game. It is eye-poppingly colourful, and the whole station is filled with swaying plants and flora. And we soon meet a shade of some kind who tells us that we are trapped in a temporal anomaly. The shade tells us that we can help. They mark 7 points of interest on the map, and as we see them spread out all around the area, we realise that this is going to be a pretty big game. It has a very good map. It has that room-to-room exploration where areas of the map are revealed. It reminded me of exploring Hollow Knight, and that is, of course, some big praise right there. But I do think that when talking about Ultros, you do have to start with the aesthetic of this game, and you have to start with the look. It really is amazing. It has a wonderful hand-painted look and a prismic neon colour palette that's like acid rock imagery mixed with stained glass. It's a very visually busy environment, and one that I found incredibly stimulating. It seemed to just light up my brain when I was playing this game, and as well as visual appeal, that meant that when the going got tough or if I was lost or backtracking, I was never bored. It's just a wonderful game to look at, so I think that the visuals have gameplay implications as well. And they are really complemented by the sound. The soundscape is super interesting. It's a very juicy, natural kind of soundscape. We hear the sounds of nature, we hear croaking frogs, we hear whistling exotic birds, we hear bubbling and rustling and squelching. It is like being deep in an alien jungle. And all of these sounds were actually recorded by the composer Rat Vader, who went on a journey to Peru down the Amazon River to record animal sounds and nature sounds for the trip, which they then adapted to sound both familiar and oddly alien. Rat Vader also did the soundtrack, and it is really a phenomenal game soundtrack. It has cello, it has strings, it has electronics, it is lush and ambient, vibey. And the same can be said for the dialogue and story, which has a sense of mysticism to it and mystery, deep mystery. When you tie all of this together, you get an aesthetic that is very fully formed. There is a sense that everyone was working together to make something special and interconnected. And you can feel that radiating through all aspects of the game. And when it comes to gameplay, exploration is a really big part of Ultros. You run through these natural corridors and big yawning spaces. You find remnants of old civilizations. There is verticality to it. You'll be sliding, you'll be climbing. There is a lot to do as you're exploring the sarcophagus. It's a wonderful place to walk around. And exploration is helped by a really good map. It has a pink highlight if there is an unexplored exit on a room, which really helps your eye to go to places you haven't been yet. My mind went back to Hollow Knight when I was combing the map for any little chink in the wall. That problem is solved here. But this game also reminded me of Hollow Knight in that it has an intricate, wonderful, deep, and appealing world to explore. Another big part of the gameplay is combat. It's not a dominant feature, but there is a cool moveset with a charge attack, dodge through enemy, retaliate, jumping attacks and that kind of thing. And you are encouraged to use different moves by a really cool system whereby enemies will drop pristine drops if you can kill them with perfect variety, meaning that you didn't use the same move twice, which I think is a really clever way to get players to not just lean on their favourite moves, but to engage with the whole moveset. And that in turn is plugged into the power-up system. You need those pristine picks to power yourself up with the skill tree, which is called the cortex in this game. You are literally opening your character's mind by absorbing substances that are growing in nature, so it all plugs together into the psychedelic feel of the game. And the skills really matter in this game. There are combat skills, there are traversal skills that will help you get to hard-to-reach places, and there are skills that relate to the ecosystem, to how you interact with enemies and animals, and to how your planting and growing works. There is a whole gardening system built into this game that affects the world around you in a really cool way. There are also some climactic boss battles. They're not too hard, but they broke up gameplay really nicely. I want to drop a spoiler warning here because there's a lot to talk about in this game that I think it wouldn't be fair to share. But if you're dropping out here, I think this is a 10 out of 10 game. It's a really special Metroidvania, so please do go and check it out. If you'd like to stick around for the spoiler cast, if you've played the game already, I'll be right back after this. I think the first big surprise in Ultros after this spoiler break is that at the end of the first loop, when you've killed the first boss, broken open the first shaman tank, which is your objective in this game, to go and break 7 of them, the game resets. It actually has a roguelike element to it. You wake up back in the same place as you started in, without your power-ups, without any of the stuff that you've gotten, without your sword even. And that was a bit of a sting at first. I think any Metroidvania fan will relate to the idea of having your double jump taken away from you again as being a really bad thing. But I came to really like it, actually. I think it is used in a very ingenious way here because the loop enables things to change. Some things change, some things stay the same. Some characters that you meet have forgotten that the first loop ever happened. Some have a feeling that something strange is going on. And some things in the world have changed too. For example, if you plant seeds in the world and then go to the end of the loop, when you come back, the plants that you planted will have grown bigger. And this affects the environment in a series of interesting ways. Sometimes it means that there are trees that have grown higher that you can use as platforms to get to new areas. Sometimes it means that moss will be hanging down from the ceiling and vines. And if it has grown long enough, you'll be able to swing on those vines to reach hard-to-find platforms. And that's just 2 examples, but there are a whole range of ways in which planting and the loop and time resetting itself affects the game really well. And I think that Ultros' big strength is actually breaking what you expect from a Metroidvania, and the loop is one way that it does that. And I think that the game knows that players are going to struggle with that a little bit, and it does ameliorate some of that memory loss stuff. For example, in the skill tree, you will soon learn that you can find a pickup called a mnemonic mycelium that you can punch into your skill tree, and it will lock a skill from run to run. So there's a very fun mini-game involved, not just with planting and growing from loop to loop, but also choosing which skills you find essential. Does it let you jump higher? Is it a skill that makes you stronger in combat? There's a really fun mini-game involved in choosing how to use your precious memory pins as well. But I think that one of the most interesting ways of all that Ultros subverts expectations is how the biosphere is used in this game. Because at first, animals are very hostile, plants can be hostile, there are plants that harm you, that electrocute you, like piranha plant type things, and animals will attack you as well, so you'll just take them out and harvest their parts. But as the game grows, we start to realise that animals have their uses too. If we feed them, they will drop manure, and in the next loop there will be a planting spot there. So we can plant something that will maybe grow through a wall, break something down, reveal something new. And later in the game, those troublesome plants that were giving us a lot of hassle will become incredibly useful. So there is a feeling in this game that you are not just an invader in this ecosystem, but a part of it. There's even a skill that you can unlock in late game, where if you eat enough stuff The animals won't attack you anymore, they'll just see you as part of the ecosystem. And that shift from being an invader, an interloper, to being a part of this ecosystem, just running through the plants and animals, was a profound and kind of a special feeling in this game, I think. And we're getting into ultra spoiler territory now, so if you're still hanging around with any plans to play this game, get out of here. I'm going to talk about the living network now, and that's something that was a wonderful surprise in this game. So the living network is a second wind that this game has, where the whole thing just takes a big swing. I mean, it turns out to not be the game that you thought it was. There is a whole other game hiding within the game. At the very bottom of the map, on some desolate floating asteroids, we find the start of a signal. If we connect with the signal, it floats behind us like a long glowing tendril that snaps if we get too far away. However, we can connect it to crystalline buds that we've been walking past throughout the whole game. We can connect it to save pods. We can connect it to plants that we have grown. And so the game becomes this interesting activity of threading a signal throughout the entire game world. It's a giant map-spanning meta-puzzle that requires patience, that needs you to get creative. You have to find ways to get the signal to high places without breaking it, to thread it through narrow corridors. And every time that we connect it, there is a big burst of blue light. It's very satisfying, the music swells, and it is a wonderful, engrossing, surprising task that we have to bring this desolate ship back to life by spreading a signal through its further reaches. And I have to be honest, this part of the game just blew my entire mind. It became apparent that I was being presented with a huge, world-spanning puzzle that required an understanding and a manipulation of everything I had learned about the game's ecosystem and map. It uses everything that you've learned along the way. This puzzle has some utility because if you connect it to save points, it will turn them into fast travel points, so you are connecting a fast travel network. But the biggest revelation of all is when you carry the signal to the shaman pods that you've been breaking throughout the game. It lights them up in a big flashing display of light. They flower, the music changes optimistically, and we feel that we are having some kind of tangible positive effect on this broken sarcophagus that we've been exploring. And all I can say really is it's genius. So chapeau, bravo, and well done for designing such a wonderful part of Ultros. The other outcome of reconnecting all of the shamans to the living network is that there are two endings to this game. The first is the violent ending, as the trophy calls it, which is accessible after you destroy all of the shaman, a big puzzle in itself. But if you go the extra mile, you will get the non-violent ending, where you connect all of the shaman to the Ultros birth chamber, and something else happens entirely. So there are two story outcomes here. They kind of hinge on a character called Qualia, who is my favourite character in the game. She's a priestess who is guarding the birth chamber at the centre of this sarcophagus. At different times, she will treat us friendly, as if we're a pilgrim. When we start to change the biosphere, she will become hostile and treat us as an invader. And by the end of the game, she's come to understand that she is perhaps not the chosen one who is going to change everything. And we see her kind of letting go of that responsibility and realizing that the player character is the one. So she has a really cool character arc. But as for what the endings mean, it's a little inscrutable. I think if Ultros has one flaw, it might be that the story is told very, very vaguely. We only get poetic lines, we get bits of dialogue here and there, a little bit of environmental storytelling, and it's a little hard to put together. So depending on whether you're the kind of person that enjoys a vague story or wants to know exactly what is going on, that might affect your playthrough a little. But I've been on Reddit and there are people there trying to untangle all of the clues and put the story together, so mileage will vary on that, I think. But this barely dented my enjoyment of Ultros, that's for sure. I think that the game is an aesthetic masterpiece. I think it is visually dazzling. I think the soundtrack is incredible. I think there is a feast of ambitiously layered gameplay here. I love that it reinvents itself throughout. I haven't even talked about some areas of the game. There is a whole section with like a strange sport that you have to play. There is a section with a block puzzle you have to play. There are sections where you are swimming up waterfalls with the abilities that you've got, trying to navigate pipes full of blades. There is just so much in the game. Another little theory of mine was that the people that we meet, the various people of various races, have all somehow arrived at this place for different reasons. We meet the gardener, who is a biologist who is investigating the flora and fauna as a scientist. We'll meet a mysterious huntress who is treating the place as a playground for her skills. We will also meet some aliens called the Gnoppers, who have decided to use this place as a spa. They are using the loop to try and attain eternal life and have built a literal spa. It just goes on and on. It's so cool. There is a whole section of the game called the Pantheon of the Stars that I thought was going to be some kind of astral section. It turns out Pantheon of the Stars, it's a trick. It's like a game show section. And so I got the feeling that we meet people of various species. And one of them is a mechanic who is trying to figure out how all the machines here work. And so many people have come to this station from different races with different perspectives, and they're all trying to figure out what Ultros is, and we as the player are trying to do the same thing. So just to round out, I will say that I think that this is a huge game. I absolutely love it. The feeling that I got from it, I could feel it in my body playing this game. It was so unique and rare. I also find it philosophically interesting. I was very struck by the moment where I realized that I was slowly coming into harmony with an ecosystem that I had learned the ins and outs of and could now manipulate. And all of that was put to work in that huge living network puzzle. So I think it's a coherent, fascinating, varied, engrossing game. I think it is the first great game of 2024. That's Ultros. So I hope you enjoyed that Ultros review. There is a longer version. This review is 20 minutes long. There is an hour-long version that you can find if you like podcasts. You can find it on Spotify or iTunes. If you've watched this far and enjoyed the video, please like it. You can subscribe to the channel if you want. There is also the Patreon if you would like to support this podcast and channel. You can sign up at patreon.com/gaminginthewild to join our patron-only Discord and talk games with some really cool people and to get bonus episodes of the show as well. That's it for now. Take care of yourselves and each other. See you on the next one.